Good morning, guys. This is week 4 on our delivery. We're going to be looking at motivation. Now, when you are looking at this in terms of examination, they don't necessarily want you to refer back to any particular motivational theorist, but we are going to go into that a little bit more depth, because if you want to get higher order questioning and higher order answers, so looking at kind of levels 7 to 9, you will really need to look at a wider reading, which obviously this would include. First thing we're going to do is a little starter activity. You've got 3 questions. It should take you about 5 minutes or so. Just need to bullet point the answers down, and then I'll give you the answers in a second. So I'm going to pause it, and you've got about 5 minutes to do this. Okay, so we've got 3 clear questions. So what is training? Given a definition, that's 2 marks. Identify 3 types of training, so that's just 3 bullet points. And then explain 2 reasons why training is important. So you've got to say what the reason is and why it's important. You get 2 marks each for that. So training, in terms of a definition, is the process of increasing the knowledge and skills of the workforce to enable them to perform their jobs effectively. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as my wording, but it needs to mean the same. So if you've got it right, give yourself 2 marks. If you've kind of got it right, you can give yourself 1 mark. If it's completely nonsense, then obviously you don't get any marks awarded at all. Remember, it's positive marking. You've got to try and give yourself some marks if you think it warrants it. Okay, number 2 is 3 different types of training. We've got induction training, on the job and off the job, so 1 mark for each of those. And then for question 3, why is training important? So this is obviously breaks into 2 sections. So you've got why it's important, so what it is, so what they do, and why it's important. So if you've got new workers, they need to complete induction training, and the reason why they do this is because they need to be more effective and work quicker. So it's getting them started quickly, so they're more effective in a shorter period of time. Why do they do it? In terms of why do we need them to be more productive? So you could do so number 2, you could say workers could be more productive. It increases the rate at which and the speed at which they work. That means they get more done. If they get more done, they get more tasks done, and actually things get done quicker. So maybe the service gets done quicker for the customer, or the products go out to the customer quicker. You've got knowledge of products, so train the staff so they understand all the products. So if they know that are products, then they can give all the details to the customers. Customers are more likely to buy the products and also come back to you because you've got good knowledge. It makes them more motivated because they feel that you are investing in them as a business, and if they feel more motivated, they will do more work. Also, they work better together. So if you're training people, they've got a clear understanding of what they need to do for their particular roles. And if they know what they're doing for each role, they can work together, because nobody should be picking up each other's job roles because somebody's forgotten to do it. So the impact of all those is that they are more motivated, people are more productive, and the end result really should be better customer service, more customers, people wanting to be to work for you, so it's easier to recruit. So there's quite a lot of different answers you could have for that. Okay. So give yourself some marks for that. So if you've said what the training is, so why, what area do you think it's for kind of productivity, or is it kind of knowledge, or is it new workers, or motivation, or working together, and then you've explained why, then you can give yourself the 2 marks. If you've only done kind of half the explanation, or you've just said what the training is, then you're only going to get 1 mark. Okay, so moving on. What is motivation? So some of you, well, actually you are motivated now, because if you weren't motivated, you wouldn't be listening to me on this video. So you are motivated. So why do you do it? So what do you think motivation is? So have a think of what you think motivation is and write down your thoughts. Okay, I think it's quite tricky to write down what motivation is, because we kind of know what it is, and a lot of us are very self-motivated, or you wouldn't be doing all this work for school. But to put it into kind of like some kind of context and write it down into kind of verbally, it's in written way, it's quite difficult. So really the easiest way to remember it is it's the will to work. So write this down if you haven't written it down. So it's when you commit to do something, and for businesses it's the will to work. So people want to work for you, they want to do their job. It's not just about completing tasks, it's not about just working hard. People do things for different reasons, so you've got to tap into your understanding of your employees as to what makes them want to work, why have they got a willingness to work. So it can come from loads and loads of different things. So it's maybe earning more money, it might be for promotions, it might be satisfaction for doing a particular job, it might be overcoming difficulties within a project, like they like problem solving. They might have their own personal goals. So there's loads and loads of different reasons why people are motivated, but actually motivation in terms of the business context is the willingness to work, or the will to work. So I'm just going to pause it for a second. I want you to write that down. You can write a few other things down off the slide if you want to, but really it's all about kind of like the willingness to work. Okay, so hopefully you've unpaused now. We need to look at what are the benefits of motivating the workforce. So why on earth would you spend so much time and energy trying to work out why people are motivated? What would it be? What benefits would you get from doing this as a business? So write down as many as you possibly can. Okay, so the benefits, so the good things, the advantages of doing it are things like high productivity, so making more, low levels of absenteeism, so people not ringing in sick, people not wanting to come into work. If you feel a little bit poorly, you still come into work like most of the teachers do. So you've got a bit of a sniffle, you know, you are going to just come into work. Well, maybe not at the moment, obviously, because of the pandemic. But generally speaking, if we've got a little bit of a cold, or you don't feel quite right, most people will come into work. That is because you're motivated, okay? And that's the benefit for the employer. High levels of staff retention and low levels of staff turnover. This is really important. High levels of staff retention means that people stay longer in the organisation, and therefore that leads to lower staff turnover. So people aren't going, you know, year on year on year, and that actually makes your recruitment cost cheaper, because you're not having to constantly look for filling vacancies and the whole recruitment process, and then having to induction training. You know, it can take 6 months for a brand new employee to be up and running really quickly into the level that you want them to. So if you have people leaving all the time, that means that you aren't at capacity in terms of your productivity on a general basis. If you're constantly having to train people, you know, that's not good for the business. Improves industrial relations. So if you've got trade unions and people are motivated in the workplace, that actually negotiating kind of pay deals and pensions and whatever type of changes you want to put into place in the organisation, it makes it easier for you. Good reputation, so people are motivated, they will say, God, you know, I really like working here, and that actually gives you a reputation locally, sometimes nationally, and then you get the best employees in the future. So it's much easier to recruit people, and you will get the better or best people wanting to work for you. And also you are more likely to have people that have improved product knowledge and improving their kind of like their wanting to improve their customer service techniques. So if they're motivated, they're more likely to kind of look at all the product knowledge, look at all the benefits of the products and the service that you're offering, and actually they will be more likely to give a brilliant, or get a brilliant product out there to the customer, whether it's a kind of physical product or whether it's a service that you are delivering. So they're more likely to be bothered about the quality of the product that they're actually making. I'm going to pause this. I want you to make some notes on this, because it's important that you know the benefits, because it's more likely that you'll get a question in the exam that'll be, yeah, what is motivation? You know, what are the benefits to this particular business? So you need to understand generically these 6 areas, and then you would pick one which would be linked to a particular business, or more likely to be used in a particular business or benefit a business. Okay, so how can we, so we know what we're going to get from, we know what motivation is, we know what we're going to get from it in terms of a business. How can we actually do it? So what do we do within the workplace to actually motivate our workforce? So think of all the things that people could do within a business. So what could managers do? What could the organisation do to motivate your workforce? And write this down. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. I'm going to pause it and then come back to you. Okay, hopefully you've got 1 or 2 things written down. Now, some of you I think will put down money. Okay, does money motivate people? Yes, I think it does, but it's not the only thing. Okay, so there are a lot of people, or most people, are going to be motivated in part by the financial rewards that they get, but also you've got to get the pay right. Okay, so it might not necessarily be the pay, it might be the package that you give them. So it's called remuneration package, which is basically where you are looking at the whole package of benefits that you're going to give your employees. So it can be things like pension, car, gym membership, and product discounts. It can be lots and lots of different things that you would put in a package, not just your salary, but everything else to offer employees when they come to work for you. But what you need to look at is pay for your particular employees really important, but actually the amount of pay, because it really is a demotivator. If you think as an employee that you aren't getting paid enough money and that you are undervalued, then it's going to result in people leaving. It's going to result in people not wanting to work. People will probably go and look for work elsewhere. You'll get a bad reputation. Productivity will fall. And actually for the business, it might be short term good for you to pay employees less because your wage bill will be lower. However, long term, paying a low amount of money will actually be detrimental because it will give you a bad reputation. It will give you probably poor product quality, poor customer service, which will impact your sales as a business. So if you would just like to, I'm going to pause it in a second. I want you to write down a few of these little notes from here, just to make sure that you understand that yes, money does motivate, but it's not the only thing. However, if you don't get the correct level of pay, that will also be a demotivator. So money is really important, but in different ways. Okay, so why pay is important? Well, if you are looking at your employees, people feel really strongly that they get paid the right amount of money for the job that they do. So they want to make sure that they get paid a fair pay for the job that they're doing. Obviously, there are national minimum wage and the national living wage, which you have to, it's part of legislation. You've got to pay it, because if you don't, you'll be in trouble. You'll get fined. If you offer a good amount of pay, not necessarily the best amount of pay within the industry or sector, it might be you offer other things, then it will retain employees. Also making sure that as a business you are managing your costs. So you've got to think about that actually the wage cost is probably going to be the highest amount in terms of your cost for a business. It's normally about 50% of the cost is for your wages. So yes, you've got to pay your employees correctly, but on the other hand, you've got to make sure that you aren't stretching yourself or going over budget, because then that's going to be detrimental in terms of financially you can have an issue with your cash flow. Okay, so ways to determine your pay. So how do you actually pay your employees? Well, you can pay the minimum wage or living wage. So the minimum wage, and I'll do this after this, I'm going to show you a legislation next lesson. So I'll give you the kind of pay that you are expected to get, the levels of pay. But your minimum wage is from kind of like 18 up to 24. Then when you get to 25, it's the national minimum wage. Living wage, sorry. So minimum wage is from 18 to 24, 25 is the living wage. Now I'll give you those next lesson because we're doing legislation next lesson, so I'll give you a bit more detail about that. So you can decide to do that, that's fine. You might look at a job evaluation and content, so you might look at what does the person or the employee actually do for you, what is involved, and you compare it with similar jobs. You might look at similar jobs within different like your competitors. You might look at the sector and kind of look at the what is the pay for that job role within your business sector. Is it fair? What is perceived as being fair? Do you feel that it's fair? If you don't think it's fair as a manager, then the person that you're going to pay isn't going to think it's fair. You might have to negotiate pay rates, so it might be that you are ensuring that if you're opening a new business or a new area in a new location, you might need to negotiate rates, because looking at the local area, that might determine how much you have to pay. Market rates, so looking at what is the standard pattern of pay within your sector. And also it might be linked with individual performance. So if you set them certain targets, do they get paid for meeting those targets? Do they get paid extra? How are you going to determine what you're going to pay? So I'm just going to pause this again, and you can just write the bullet points. You don't necessarily have to write down every single little bit. As long as you understand it, that's fine, or shorten it down. Okay, so we've got two different methods of paying people. So it's either going to be financially or non-financially. Now, these are the methods which are financial rewards. These are the key players in motivating most staff within the workplace, and you can do it in different ways. So you can have a salary, which is fixed amount. So I get a salary, so I get told this is the job that you've got to do, and you need to, doesn't matter how you do this job in terms of your hours, you have a minimum amount of working hours. If it is that you need to work extra, then that's what you have to do. So salaries are one of the main ways of financially paying people. And then you've got wages. Wages are based generally on the time that you work. Normally quite small businesses pay wages, and it's normally kind of, it can be kind of manual labour, manual work, whereas most managerial positions are salaries. So common in retail, manufacturing, can be based on kind of like small businesses normally pay it because they only have people for so many hours per week. You can do piece rate, which is where you get paid per item. So you can do this in a factory. You can do this if you do home working. And also commission, you can pay them maybe a basic salary, so a small amount of salary, so you've always got a regular amount of money that's going to be paid to them monthly. But then you can add something called commission. So commission is based on values of sales, so it'll be a sales target, and you will get a percentage of that. So you might get 2%, 1%, 10%, it depends on the business. Okay, so you need to write these down. So there's 4 here. Okay, moving on, there are a few more. You've got things called profit share, share options, pensions, and fringe benefits or benefits in kind. So profit share is linked to the performance of the firm. So John Lewis do this. So if they have a good year in terms of their profit, they will give a percentage of their profits to their partners, which are the employees. Shares and options, so it's less common in small businesses because it depends on the ownership type. You can only give shares to a business which is a private limited company or a public limited company. So you've got to be able to sell shares in the business, and that's the legal ownership of your business. So it's based on stock markets, and also you can reward your staff with shares. So it might be that you do a certain target, or the business does really well, or the shares go up, the value of the business goes up, and you may give some shares out to your employees. So share options, or you can say to them, yes, you are allowed to buy shares in our business, but we'll give you them at a reduced rate. So I know Capital One do this, so they allow you to, and so do British Gas and Severn Trent. So there's quite a lot of big businesses that say, yes, you can buy shares in our business, but because you work for us, we're going to let you buy it at a slightly cheaper rate. Pensions, now by law, you have to be offering a pension, but the amount you give your employees depends on you. So you've got to decide what pension option you're going to give them. And also then the last one is fringe benefits and benefits in kind. They aren't necessarily cash, but they're like cash equivalents. So you might give shares, but you might give a company car. You might give like travel and house subsidies. So if they've got to relocate, you might pay for them to relocate, or you might pay for them to have another house somewhere else if they live elsewhere. You might give them more holidays. So I used to get this with mine when I used to work for Estee Lauder. The longer you work, the more holidays you get, so you accrue extra days the longer that you work. Childcare provision, so you might have a creche like a nursery that's alongside you, or you might pay for them to go to a childcare provision. Staff uniforms, they might pay for you to have a staff uniform. My best staff uniform is when I used to work for Chanel, so I actually used to get a Chanel suit or some Chanel suits for work. So staff uniforms, staff discounts as well. So you might get discounts on products. So if your parents work for Mars or Pedigree Pet Foods, you'll know there's a staff shop there, so you get really, really cheap pet food and chocolate. If your parents work for Walkers, then you will get, there's a staff shop there as well, so you get loads of crisps. I don't know what else that actually they might make, or they're part of Pepsi, aren't they? So it might be that you get drinks. I don't know, somebody tell me. So if your parents work for Pepsi and they work at Walkers, what can you buy in their staff shops? Staff discounts. So when I worked for Lauder and Clinique and Chanel, you would get staff discounts on all the products, so something like 65%, and you used to get free products as well. And things like gym memberships. So all of those are classed as a fringe benefit. Okay, so they are quite important when you're looking at your remuneration package as to what you're going to offer when you employ people. So write these down as well. Okay, so they're the financial things. Now you're going to say, oh no, money's the only thing that motivates people. Well, actually, no, it's not. So yes, you do need to give your workers a fair amount of pay, because that would demotivate them if you didn't. However, there are other things that you can give people or do which will motivate them. And they can do this in small businesses and large businesses, okay? So if you know the capabilities of your staff, you will know which non-financial methods will actually motivate them more. So you've got things like job enlargement, job enrichment, and management style. So job enlargement is where you give your employees a variety of tasks to perform. So they might not be harder or more challenging, it's just different. So it makes it a little bit more interesting. So where you put them on staff job rotation. So if you work in, I don't know, a factory, you might work on the line some days, you might work in packing, you might work in ordering. They do it in hospitals when you're training to be a doctor. You'll go through every single department. It won't be necessarily any more challenging, but you will look at lots and lots of different areas, okay? Job enrichment, which is where you give more responsibility. So actually, you will give them more authority, okay? So once they do their work, they feel that they've been a little bit more in charge of it. Because actually they've achieved a little bit more. It's a bit harder to do, you've got more responsibility, a wider range of jobs to do, maybe a little bit more complex. And then you've got management style. So actually you need to know your workers really well as to which kind of management style that you can use. And we'll go through management styles, or you will look at some management styles a little bit, and the motivational theorists, but we will go into management styles when we look at organisation structures a little bit more. So if you've got an autocratic manager, so you basically tell them what to do, how to do it, you don't give them any type of responsibility or option to manage themselves, that's really autocratic. Some people love being micromanaged. They want to be told what to do. They don't really want to think. They just want to be told, you've got to do this, and they go, cool, I'll do it. Others want to have a little bit of say. That's like democracy. You know, you are able to have an opinion. You are able to kind of put your views forward. Yes, the management will make the decision, but you have some input, okay? So I want you to write these 3 down, please. Okay, there's another 2, which are communication and training. So communication, if you have communication which is true, so a lot of employees like to know what's going on, but also they don't want to have half pieces of information. They want to know the full amount of information, and not kind of like a little bit and it's slightly tweaked. For the employees, and the managers know what's going on, but the employees haven't really got an idea. So they want to know that it's true communication, it's regular. So it might be meetings, it might be emails, it might be, you know, kind of like on here, like Teams at the moment, but it's regular contact to know that you are a key employee, you are important to the organisation, and your job role is important. And training. Staff need to be trained. If you can't do your job properly, you're not going to be motivated, because actually you're going to find it too difficult to do, and you're going to be demotivated before you even start. So you've got to make sure that your staff know what they're doing. And also you need to give training opportunities for those staff that want to develop their skills and their knowledge so they can progress throughout the organisation, because if you don't do that, they will go somewhere else. So training is really important. One, to actually get your employees productive, you know, to increase productivity, and also make sure you've got a quality product or service and they can do their job properly, but also for those that want to develop and to move forward in progression. So write these 2 down as well, please. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, you have got Maslow, which is I've got you 5 motivational theorists. Now you don't necessarily need them for the exam as such. It's not really part of the specification. You are not told that you have to know all these different motivational theorists, but it actually, if you understand what they are and their theory, you will understand motivation a little bit more, and you'll find it so much easier to then kind of put it in context with a scenario. So you are going to do, for each motivational theorist, you're just going to look them up on these YouTube videos, and you are just going to write the basics of each one of these theorists. Now what I would suggest you do is I'm going to continue just going through my slides. What I would do is I would pause, write some notes down, do a little bit of research, and then go on to the next one. So I'm going to stop and start this one now, and I'm going to carry on going through. All you need to do is you need to listen to them, you need to write some notes down. Some of you think, God, yeah, I get this one. I'd really kind of like be motivated if this one was used. Others you think, maybe not, it's not really for me. And that's because you use different motivational theorists and techniques with different employees, basically. Okay, next one is F.W. Taylor. F.W. Taylor, really interesting. Well, I think it's really interesting, but maybe I'm a little bit sad. F.W. Taylor was the guy that worked with Henry Ford in delivering the Model T. So if you watch this, it will tell you all about his journey on putting flow production in process. He was the guy that basically invented the production line. So I'm going to pause this, look through Frederick Winslow Taylor as well. Elton Mayo. Now, I do hope you appreciate my little captions. I thought Elton John, you remember that Elton Mayo? Maybe I'm bonkers, but yeah, I thought it was an easy way to remember it. Now, there's two little clips for this one. This guy looked at basically team working. So he did something called the Hawthorne experiment, which I think is the second video, but also he looked at kind of like how managers talk to their employees and when they're working together, so employees working together as teams. So go onto those little clips, write some notes down about Elton Mayo. Frederick Hertzberg, right, so I love Frederick Hertzberg. I kind of relate more to his theory than any of the others. So you need to, and he also links to a different management style, which is the next one as well. So Frederick Taylor, again, there's two. He looked at motivating factors and something called, it was a two-factor theory. You've got hygiene and motivators. They're both as important as each other. You've got to get your hygiene factors right or your motivators won't work. But if you've got motivators, you haven't got your hygiene factors, then they've both got to be put in place. So if you write some notes on that, there's two videos for this one. And the last one is Douglas McGregor. As you can see, lovely little picture of me. Right, so he's got two different types of theories. He's got theory X, there's theory Y. Actually, there's a theory Z as well, but you don't need to know that. That's kind of like A-level and degree. But I will move my face actually when I come to edit this and move it across to the other side so you can see the address, or kind of like the YouTube clip thing. You also have, don't forget, you've got an extra, there should be an extra sheet. There should be something that gives you all of your video clips. An easy way to access them rather than trying to get them off the video. I think we've put that in place last week. So again, theory X, theory Y, pause it, look at that. I am a theory Y manager. However, some people might think I'm theory X. It depends on who is working for me. Okay, so I'll pause it. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to be reading, there's three different little scenarios. One is about Martin, who is bored with his job and will benefit from job enrichment. Okay. So Martin's bored with his job. He'll benefit from job enrichment. Remember what job enrichment is? Whereby the school could give him extra responsibilities such as heading up Key Stage 3. It could also send him on some training courses to show how valued he is as a member of staff. This would show him that school values his judgment and he'll be more likely to result in him being more motivated. I think that is absolutely true. So job enrichment, that shows you how job enrichment is used. Then we've got Becca. She's bored with her job and she would benefit from job enlargement. Remember what job enlargement is. So they would give her extra jobs to do in addition to her reception work. So she's doing different things, so it kind of a bit more interesting. This was result in Becca having more varied job and being busier, and also making sure that she's more motivated because she's got a bit more to do, different things. And actually, she should become a little bit more motivated because she then feels that actually the employers are wanting her to gain more skills as well. Brenda's been very disillusioned at working as a leader, and because she feels very undervalued. The school should empower her with extra decision-making responsibility. So the school could give her the role or the sole responsibility in charge of behaviour policy maybe, and this would increase her motivation to work, as it demonstrates her leadership and her leadership and being a team member, and also it shows that they believe in her judgment and the skills that she's got. Okay, so I'm going to pause this. You need to finish these sentences off looking at either Maslow or Hertzberg. So which theorist would you think would be better? And what I will do is I will put this on for next week so I can give you the answers that I think. Okay, and the last thing you need to be doing is looking at a case study. Now remember, when you've got a case study, you read it, you look at why this is particularly different for this business, why is this business unique, and you need to make sure that you're using pieces of information from the case study. Now when you're recommending, it should really be 3 different paragraphs. So you should start off with kind of like, I'll read the question first because it'll make sense. So recommend whether Wyvern Farm should change the way it motivates its seasonal produce workers. So it's about seasonal picking. So they're a seasonal business, they're a fruit farm. You know, should it change the way that it motivates its workers? Okay, so this should be in 3 paragraphs. So it's yes, they should change their motivation, the way they motivate. No, they shouldn't change the way they motivate, and what you think. So yes, they should because, and pick out information. No, they shouldn't because, pick out information. I think they should do this because. It gives you 3 marks for each paragraph. Okay, so this is the last one that you need to do. All I would like you to do is basically go through it, make sure you've got enough notes, and for next week, it'll be the last one next week. We're looking at legislation. If there's any questions, obviously you can I'm gonna have to stop it a minute. Oh, sorry about that. The cat was just running after a squirrel up the tree, so I have to go and stop recording. Anyway, so I will be recording legislation. That'll be the last one that we need to do, and then hopefully you've done these and you've got a good chunk of knowledge in terms of kind of like human resources. Okay, so I'll see you next week. Have a good week. Thank you.